So in your second year, you have to do a research project, which makes up, I think it's 15% of your degree. And it has to be sort of a novel piece of research that you're doing. You can tack it onto someone else's work, but most people go off and they ask a question themselves. And so you have to find a tutor, and you go and talk through a question with them, and you can do it in any field of biology. My biggest interest in biology has always been insects, and so I knew immediately that I wanted to work with insects in some way, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do sort of a behavioural experiment or sociality in bees. So I went and talked to the head of the Natural History Museum in Oxford, Darren Mann, and he had this idea of comparing different field sites in Oxfordshire to see the community structures of the beetles there. And so by using the beetles, finding out which is the sort of the best way to look after a field, or the most appropriate way to look after a field. And so my idea was to compare both, a farm, some reconstituted land, and reconstituted land in looked after in two different ways. In one way it was grazed, and one way it was mowed, and then a golf course as well, just because land in Europe is very rarely just left fallow. We don't have enough space. And so I spent about 5 months digging pitfall traps and collecting beetles, and then about a month in the lab sorting through my samples. So counting thousands upon thousands of beetles, identifying them, and then sort of working out which fields were the most sort of diverse. What we don't realise is that land doesn't do well just being left by itself. Because we've removed all of the sort of top predators, we've removed quite a few of the top herbivores, and so if you leave a field just without and don't do anything to it, it dies slowly. You get a very, very boring sort of lack of diversity. But if you add some sort of some damage to the land, actually, so it might be just literally digging holes, or it might be having a flock of sheep in there, or mowing it once in a while, it changes the populations hugely. And so sites that were 100 metres apart, but in one which had sheep and the other one didn't, there would be beetles that you don't see anywhere else in the country because they didn't have that. They didn't have the same conditions anywhere else. I caught some rare beetles which have only been caught twice in Oxfordshire before. They've been put into the Natural History Museum, so it's quite nice.